מרים בשמחה, מי שנכנס אדר, מי שנכנס אדר, 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 מרים בשמחה.
מי שנכנס אדר, מי שנכנס אדר, מרים בשמחה. מי שנכנס אדר, מי שנכנס אדר, מרים בשמחה.
Eliyahu
Shimi
Good evening, good luck, and welcome to our Shiro V'Zimra concert. When preparations began for this year's concert, we had originally thought about scheduling it for around Hanukkah time. However, it was decided that it might be a bit strange singing Shoshanas Yaakov as the finale at a Hanukkah concert, so we are once again fulfilling the precept of Mishenichnas Adar Marvin B'Simcha, and I hope you all have a very enjoyable evening. One of the unique characteristics of our choir is that we are all volunteers and for the most part amateurs. Yet, for just that reason, it entails a lot more time and effort for us to prepare for a concert than it would a professional choir. I would therefore like to express my sincerest thanks to all the men and boys of the choir for the many hours of rehearsal time that they have put in to make this evening a success. I would especially like to express my appreciation to the boys, many of whom are relatively new to the choir, for having worked extra hard to the point where they were ready to perform at the concert already 6 weeks ago. At the same time, I would like to recognize the continuing efforts of our choir members for the dedicated service that they provide every Shabbos and Yom Tov to enhance the avodah in our Beis HaKnesses, which is, after all, our main function. Naturally, none of this would be possible without the cooperation and support of the wives and parents of our choir members who have put up with our rehearsal schedule over the past weeks. I'm sure that tonight you will realize that it was all well worth it. Of course, all the efforts of the choir members would be for naught without the expert professional leadership of our esteemed musical director, Mr. Seymour Silverman. His reputation has spread far and wide. There are few people who haven't heard of him, either from his famous Hanukkah record, or from his numerous concerts, or from being one of the generations of students who have had him as choir instructor in various yeshivas. He is known today as one of the foremost authorities on Jewish music, and his expertise is always in demand. Our choir has been privileged to benefit from his leadership for over 30 years, and our Kehillah certainly owes him a debt of gratitude. I can safely say that without him, we wouldn't have a choir today. When Mr. Silvermans was engaged to train our choir, I'm not sure if the shul realized that this was a package deal. For just as long as Mr. Silvermans has been training us, we have also had the good fortune of having his talented wife, Elaine, accompany us on piano at all our Shiro V'Zimra concerts. For me personally, it has been a privilege to work with this talented couple, not only for the last 5 years as conductor, but ever since I started singing in the choir 27 years ago. Mr. and Mrs. Silvermans, we all look forward to continuing in this wonderful partnership in good health for many more years to come. Our Kehillah is privileged to have one of the only shuls left in the world with its own choir, consisting of men and boys from amongst its members. It is easy to take this fact for granted, but it shouldn't be. In order to continue with our special Avodas HaKodesh, the choir always welcomes new members. As our late Rav wrote in an article which appeared in the Mitteilung in 1958, and I quote, "We have our choir and can only wish that it will develop and grow in its task. Mishlei calls upon us, Kabed es Hashem mehonecho, honor God with your possessions, with the material values which he has granted you." The Pesikta interprets the saying as an admonition. She'im kol kono v'ato yoshev b'beis hakneses, amod v'kabed es Hashem b'kolcho, al tomar mehonecho elo b'groncho. If you have a good voice and you are present in the Beis HaKnesses, arise and serve God with the wealth of your throat. The Rav continues, we may expect that in addition to the present members of the choir, members of the Kehillah who have a good singing voice follow the above admonition. For the second part of the Mishlei verse promises them rich reward. V'yimolu asomecha sobo. Your storage chambers shall fill with satisfaction. Their greatest reward will be the knowledge that they have done their share in promoting the dignity of the avodah in our Beis HaKnesses, which is so close to our hearts. But even more, ladies and gentlemen, We not only welcome new members to the choir itself, but we encourage more people to come to shul, especially on Shabbos morning, to sing along with the choir and add to the spirit of Zeh Keli Danveyu. For what is the purpose of the choir but to lead and inspire the congregation, not to give a performance, for that we have a concert. I have recently heard from Cantor Malavani how our choir is so admired by many shuls in Europe who used to have choirs of their own and no longer do. Let us live up to this reputation and support our choir by being in shul on Shabbos and Yom Tov and singing along. A question I am frequently asked is who composes the music our choir sings in shul? The answer is that our repertoire is drawn from a large group of distinguished composers such as Yapet, Lewandowski, Naumburg, Sulzer, Mumbach, Schnurr, Kaminsky, Zilberts, Rappa, and our very own Seymour Silvermans. Of this group, two names stand out as the main authors of our choir's most familiar pieces. They are Israel Yapet and Louis Lewandowski. As many of you know, Yapet was the conductor of the Shul Choir in Frankfurt at the time of Rav Hirsch. His music was composed just for a choir such as ours, consisting of a men's and boys' choir. His legacy to us consists of the Yom Tov and Yomim Noroim, Aushaven and Einhaven, Al HaKol, Shir HaMalos and Motzei Shabbos, various tunes for Lefadodi, Tzadik HaTomar, Shalom Rav by Yidin Soa, and the Lefayomar and Shabbos, and the well-known Lo Avus sung during Hallel. Lewandowski was the choir conductor of the Reform Synagogue in Berlin in the second half of the 19th century. In contrast to Yapet, his music was composed for a mixed choir with an organ accompaniment. Yet, the majestic beauty of his work was such that it was accepted and adapted in many shuls such as ours. What would Yom Tov be without Matovu and Yigdal, composed by Lewandowski? Our programs for special Shabbosos usually consist of a Lefadodi, Mizmor Shir, by Yidin Soa, and a Lefayomar by Lewandowski. In fact, many of the solo pieces sung by our Chazanim, such as Hashem Malach, Hashkiveyu, the Shamru, and the Friday Night Kiddush, were written by this talented composer. This year marks the 100-yard side of Louis Lewandowski, and we are pleased to include in tonight's program 5 pieces by him, most of which should be familiar to you. Incidentally, we hope to reinstate the beautiful Ein Elokeinu, which you have just heard, into our regular Shabbos rotation. For those of you who are not familiar with our guest cousin, let me give you a brief biography. Cantor Joseph Malavani has served for the past 20 years as cousin of the Fifth Avenue Synagogue in New York City. He is the distinguished professor of liturgical music at the Philip and Sarah Bell School of Jewish Music at Yeshiva University and the dean of the Moscow Academy of Jewish Music under the auspices of the American Joint Distribution Committee. Born in Israel, Cantor Malavani has served as the cantor of the Israeli Armed Forces, as well as at shuls in Tel Aviv, Johannesburg, and London. He holds the highest artistic diplomas from the Music Academy in Tel Aviv and from Great Britain's Royal Academy and Trinity College of Music. Cantor Malavani has performed as soloist with the Israel Philharmonic, the Brooklyn Philharmonic, the New York Symphony, the London Classical Orchestra, members of the Moscow Philharmonic Orchestra, and many others. He has concertized at major international concert halls, including Amsterdam's Opera House, Tel Aviv's Mann Auditorium, Avery Fisher Hall here in New York, London's Royal Festival Hall, and Moscow's Tchaikovsky Hall, just to name a few. Cantor Malavani is one of the most sought-after artists of our time in the area of Jewish music. His rich, spinto tenor voice delivers moving renditions of both liturgical and popular Jewish music. A few weeks ago, I was talking to someone from out of town and mentioned the choir's forthcoming concert. Will you be having a guest cousin, he asked. I told him that we would have the privilege of having Cantor Malavani as our guest soloist. His reply was, why would a famous cousin like Joseph Malavani want to sing with a choir like yours? I proudly replied that not only would he be singing with us, but it would be the 6th time that he would be joining our Shir V'Zimra concerts. When I contacted Cousin Malavani back in October and asked him to sing with us, his answer was, is it 2 years already? Of course I will. You know I love to sing with your choir. In fact, the original date for our concert was to have been next week, but Cousin Malavani was already asked to reserve that date for a performance in London. However, he told me that if we couldn't change our plans, he would gladly reschedule his London engagement. Naturally, with an offer like that, we gladly changed our date. and his encouraging and supportive words have given us a tremendous amount of fizzle. It is therefore truly an honor and a privilege to present to you Cantor Joseph Malavani.
Kodarav, Goradasra, Rabbonim, Chazonim, ladies and gentlemen, a good word to you. What I'm going to sing now is somewhat of an unusual piece from the Maftir, or the whole Maftir of today, Zochores Asher Asa Lecha Amalek, which we are all mitzvah, it's midoraisa. My late Rebbe, Shlomo Ravitz, who was a great Chazan composer, we just had a big concert in Tel Aviv a couple of weeks ago in his memory at the Man Auditorium, wrote a simple piece based on the tropes, on the neginos of the te'amim of the reading of the Torah today. I elaborated on it and added extra flair, cantorial flair, but with a reason. And the reason is that I wanted to introduce, to demonstrate what really happened, Asher Karcha Baderech, what happened on the way in the desert. There are many modulations from one key to the other, especially from A flat to G. I don't want to analyze musically. The idea was I wanted to demonstrate again that Tapuchos, this idea of Amalek, who was the enemy and did all kinds of things by Zane Bacharecha, he came from all sides, and coming from all sides and angles, I demonstrated with various modulations from one key to the other. It is quite a long piece, maybe not that entertaining, but very interesting in terms of interpretation of the text based on the Kriyat Torah, on the Neginos. And it ends with Timche Zecher Amalek. We should wipe away the memory of Amalek with a beautiful melody, and of course, Lo Tishkach, we should never forget. Zachor.
השם אלוהיך נושא לך נחלה לרשתה. תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים, לא תשכח, לא תשכח, לא, לא, לא תשכח. תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים, לא תשכח, לא תשכח, לא, לא, לא תשכח. תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים, לא תשכח, לא תשכח, לא, לא, לא תשכח. תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים, לא תשכח, לא תשכח, לא תשכח. מתחת השמיים, לא תשכח, לא תשכח, לא, לא, לא
It is traditional for the chairman to acknowledge the presence of the former conductors of our choir at the Shir of the Zimmer concerts. I have the pleasure tonight to do so, not out of obligation, but with deep gratitude. We are privileged to have with us here this evening Mr. Nathan Weiss, Mr. Walter Schnurr, and Mr. Samson Beckhofer. Whether it be through the much appreciated advice and compliments of Mr. Weiss and Mr. Schnurr, or through the more active participation of Mr. Beckhofer, all three of these gentlemen have shown a continued interest in the choir. We all look forward to benefit from their experience for many years to come. Our choir also sustained a great loss during the past year with the passing of our former conductor, Mr. Sidney Bauman, Zichrono Livrocha. Mr. Bauman was conductor of our choir from 1954 until 1961. Although I myself do not remember him as conductor, those who do have told me of Mr. Bauman's hard work on behalf of our choir. In contrast to some of his successors, he was not a great innovator of new music, but made it his duty to preserve the old traditional nigunim which still inspire us today. We are very pleased that Mrs. Bauman is here tonight, and we hope that the knowledge that we are still benefiting from the years of devotion that her late husband dedicated to our choir will be a source of comfort to her and her whole family. A few months ago, on Erev Sukkot to be exact, I met Rav Geli on the way to shul. The Rav asked me whether the choir had prepared all its nigunim for the coming Yom Tov. I told him that we had. The Rav then pointed out that he and the choir had something in common, as he too had to prepare his sermons and shiurim for Yom Tov. I told the Rav that I thought that he had the harder job, as at least we sing more or less the same nigunim every Yom Tov, while I didn't think that the Rav could get away with that with his job. The Rav thought for a moment and then smiled. "You're right," he said. "Maybe in another shul I could, but not here." Rav Geli has always shown an eager interest in the choir, and his words of support and encouragement are always appreciated. It is a great honor to have the Rav with us tonight and have him address us.
Our chairman, Avram, and the choir conductor, Mr. Silbermint, the choir, Chazon Malvani, distinguished Rabbonim, Morav Rabboisa, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of all of us, I would like to thank you all for this performance tonight. It's been most inspiring and enjoyable, and we're only halfway through, and Mr. Shem, we look forward to the other half. Our chairman so rightly expressed that there were so many kilos, so many boteknesios that used to have choirs, but all that has gone. I remember during the war, I attended school in the city where I was born, in Budapest, in Hungary, which had a tremendous kilo. The general kilo was about 300,000 Yehudim, out of which about 50,000 were organized in the Orthodox community. You can imagine magnificent boteknesios. I remember vividly the choir. It was beautiful. As a teenager, I remember visiting Zurich, where the shul, the congregation ERG, which fashioned itself very much on the mother congregation in Frankfurt, all the minhagim, everything. There was no need to call it ERG. There was a special reason why they had to do it during the time of some sort of urge. But they called it ERG nevertheless to show an affinity, an association with Frankfurt, also beautiful choir. All that has gone. And the fact that we have got a choir in our kilo shows the vitality and the vibrancy of our killer that we maintain this choir. And it takes an effort on behalf of the members of the choir, and we very much appreciate what they've done today, tonight. But not only tonight, but they do all year round. The choir, and of course our beloved Chazonim, who sing so beautifully, inspire our davening. It's a pleasure to come and listen to them. And it's very opportune that this concert takes place tonight. I would like to give you a few words of a deep insight of what music means and what music does. I want to quote here to you a question from a sefer that I've seen for the first time this Thursday. I saw somebody quoting that sefer, and I don't like to rely on quotations, I like to go first hand. I immediately bought it and I opened it up and I looked at it. The sefer is called Monos Levi. It was written by no less a personage than Reb Shlomo Alkabetz, who lived in Tzfaz some 400 years ago. Those who have been to Tzfaz to the Beis Almin, he and the Beis Yosef and the Arizal are buried together within Dalet Amos. He was a famous Kabbalist, and he bequeathed to Klal Yisrael the famous song of the Chudodi. And the Chudodi, which is universally sung everywhere, was composed by the Shlomo Alkabetz. And he wrote a Perush on the Megillah, and he called it Monos Levi, Shlach Monos. He sent the Sefer at the Shlach Monos to his father-in-law. His father-in-law was a kosher person. Maybe he didn't have the money to buy the normal Shlach Monos, that you know the Sefer of the Ramon Mechir Yoim. He could never afford to buy the wine. He read the Sefer of the Megillah. Not exactly, but he composed the Sefer, a sizable Sefer, and he sent it to his father-in-law, and it's called Monos Levi. In that Sefer, he asked a very fundamental question. Achashverosh made a banquet. And the idea of the banquet of the Suda was, as I mentioned earlier this evening by Minchel and Marev, to invite the Jewish congregation and to entice them to Dvar Avelo, to serve them with non-kosher food, with Leviayin Desach, in order to cause their downfall, because Haman organized it and he engineered it in order to bring down Klal Yisrael, so the Midrashim tell us. And he made a Suda which appealed to all the bodily faculties, to tempt them, to rouse them sensually. Sight, smell, taste, touch. He ordered food that tasted very well, very good. He took them in the Ginas Habison. It was the gardens where there were beautiful plantations in order to rouse the sense of smell. Beautiful tapestry to catch the eye, and comfortable seats, mitozov or kesef, in order to arouse the feeling of touching, to be comfortable. But on both sides, one item was missing: the sense of hearing. No music. We don't find anywhere that Achashverosh provided music on that occasion. Can you imagine a broiled dinner without music? Can you imagine the complaints he would get? At the Disney always get complaints, but never mind. They're improving as we're going along. But can you imagine not to provide the music? A chasana without the music, a suda without the music, and so much money has been spent, and no music. Why? This is the question that he asks. And he says, I'm going to quote you an answer that I heard from Zokein Echo, from an elderly person. That Zokein must have been an Odom Kosher that he quotes him. And he says, I will give you the background of this saying that he says in order that you should understand it. And he explains. For example, when we sing a melody to a child, what is the end result, my friends? The child falls asleep. When we hear beautiful music, we forget about everything. I'm quite sure before you've come you didn't have love and malke, but you're not hungry, you're not thirsty, you're geared to the music, because you hear the music, it takes your mind away. Why is that? He explains that in the heavens above, there's no speech the way we understand it. But all utterances, all communication is done in a melodious way. We say in the davening, Besofo, Behuro, Vinimo, Kedusho, with a beautiful, clear speaking in a melodious way. Everything that happens in the heavens above is done by melody, is done by music, by some sort of a music. He says that therefore, music is the speech, the manner of expression which the Neshama understands, because the Neshama comes from above. Why is it that a child is more impressed by music than a grown-up? Because it has recently arrived. The Neshama has just come, and the Neshama still remembers, and subconsciously, the melody that it heard in the heavens above. Because of that, the music captivates the child, and it almost passes out. It sleeps. Sleeping is a 60 years of death, where the neshama departs a little bit partially, and that is the response to the music that takes place. We are already old comers. We are already used to Olam Hazeh, to the language of Olam Hazeh, but still we don't fall asleep, but still it rouses us. And at the time when we hear a beautiful piece of music, we forget about eating and anything else. Achashverosh and Haman wanted the Jewish people to eat and drink. They knew that if music is going to be provided, they're not going to eat and they're not going to drink. They're going to be geared to the music. And as the purpose was they should eat and drink macholos asuros, because of that there was no music at the banquet which Achashverosh has so elaborately prepared for the Bnei Yisrael. It's a very interesting thought, and it's befitting to a Baal Kabbalah, to Kabbalist, to say words like this, that music comes from above, that's for the language of the Shemayim, and that comes and captivates the neshama of the person. Because of this, we would like to show our extra appreciation, not only for tonight, but for the choir and the chazonim and all those who help so much to beautify and enhance our tefillos all through the year. And I wish you should go in the choir al-choir. And whatever the situation is, you're tired to come to rehearsals, it requires an effort. It's easy to give in, but if we give in once, it's lost. It will not come back again. And Baruch Hashem, our kilo has got the strength, the vitality, and the vibrance to continue with this minhag, old minhag Yisrael, and whose work we should help. We should go before the foil, and we should be able to join together in many more concerts and choirs here.
gentlemen, if I may add just a word in connection with the words of praise of Rav Kelly. I was recently in Switzerland for a concert, series of concerts, one in Zurich and one in Basel, with the choir from Moscow. And Shabbos, of course, I was at IRG. As I always tell them, this is my shul when I'm in Zurich. I said to them, what is the matter with you people? Don't you believe in tradition? Why don't you send a delegation to New York, to Kehala Das Yeshur, and learn what it means tefillah, and what it means choir, and what it means Simol Zilber means. Upon return to New York, I said to Avraham Gutman, and he mentioned something, but he only gave you half of it. I said to Avraham Gutman that some people should get together, especially the business mind people. And if the guys from Zurich cannot come to New York, then send the choir for a concert or for davening in Zurich. As you can imagine, I get the opportunity to perform all over the world with major symphony orchestras, with major choruses, professionals and otherwise. Believe me, as it is Motzei Shabbos today, believe me that the pleasure that I have, at least for one, maybe he will deduct from my pay, but the pleasure that I for one have singing with the choir here, which is full of enthusiasm, the choir of the Kehila, is such a great pleasure. I look forward, I hope you'll invite me again, but I always look forward from time to time. So a very big Yashar Koach, and let's sing now.
Oh machst du etwas Meuschale, der kennt dich noch von blieb. Du bist gewesen mein Herr,